Hey, Coach, what was the biggest takeaway that this team, your defense, really can build on that you liked from the game in game one going into game two against Wagner?
Yeah, I think we all looked at the film and really felt the same way. There was two things that really sort of stuck out to us: is pissed off and at the same time encouraged about some of the things that we saw. We're not far away. I think we got a great football team in that locker room. We obviously got to do a heck of a lot better job to show it. I think we played extremely hard. I mean, there's some times in the fourth quarter, and that's to be expected. That's the bare minimum around here. I think there's times in the fourth quarter where, a lot of other teams would probably have laid down. Obviously, our guys didn't. We got guys topping off, getting on the pie, all that type of stuff. But the fact of the matter is we got to coach better and we got to play better, and they weren't up to our standard.
Was it something that was more physical than mental, or was it a combination?
I think we were ready to play mentally. I really do. I think we were ready to play mentally. I think Coach Newberry did a great job putting together a practice structure where we were able to go out there and live tackle. And obviously we weren't able to get that done Saturday. That was the biggest takeaway. We misfit a couple things. It wasn't like there was a bunch of guys, butt naked running around and things like that. You had guys in position, but physically we've got to tackle better. I think you had to be blind not to notice that watching the football game. You miss 19 tackles. I mean, it makes my blood cringe. It makes my skin crawl to say that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just physically we've got to play better football.
Since you've been back in the bye week now, what do you like so far going into the Wagner game from what this defense is showing you?
Just the resolve. We equated it, Scott, to the season's a 12-round boxing match, and you took some licks in the first round. You're going back to your corner to sort of regroup and retrain, and how are you going to come out in the second round? And everything I've seen from these guys has been, we're going to come out swinging, we're going to come out fighting. They've attacked practice the right way. We told them right off the bat, this is a bye week, not an off week. And there's a difference in terms of the mentality with which we attack meetings and practice and lifting and training and all those things. And they just consistently answer the bell. I have no issues in terms of those things leading up into game one and obviously leading up into game two.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
Hey, PJ.
Hey, Wags.
So obviously, I think we were all surprised by the ineffectiveness of the rushing defense. Last year, you held Notre Dame to 66 rushing yards. This year, they got 3 times that, 191. Anything in particular after watching the film that you saw that prevented the rushing defense from being what it has been?
Well, I think, like we hit on earlier, is number one was the tackling. You missed 19 tackles. They had 118 yards after contact rushing the football. You had whatever it was, I believe it was 190 total. So there's the difference right there. Is you have to be able to be effective tacklers. We have to do a great job with that in terms of how we teach that. And we got to get guys on the ground. We got to land on top. And, you just mentioned the stats from last year to this year. I think that's probably the biggest thing is the yards after contact and the ineffectiveness of us getting ball carriers on the ground. A couple misfit plays, but nothing too wild or crazy in terms of that piece of it. It's just we got to be better tacklers, and we got to work really hard on that.
Well, that's what Coach New mentioned, not fitting things right. You didn't see as much of that? You didn't see guys not in the right gap running into the wrong spots or no?
There's a little bit of that, not a lot though. There's a little bit of that, and Coach New touched on that. Specifically the linebackers we're pressing gaps, but we're a half a gap off. And some of the things they did was a little bit different than necessarily how we prepared for it. It's the same play, but just how they got to that play pulled us out just a smidge early on how we want to fit some things specifically some of the downhill duo plays.
So with regard to the missed tackles, I presume that's not something you saw in preseason, but of course you're not playing Notre Dame running backs in preseason. But I mean, in anything in particular, were you surprised where did that come from?
I was a little surprised with that. I really thought we were physically prepared. I thought Coach Newberry put a great schedule together, like I mentioned earlier, with the amount of live work that we got done. I think we've got shifty backs. I think we've got power backs here as well. So I thought we got a lot of great reps. I was probably the biggest thing for us was our eyes went down on contact, and we didn't do a great job wrapping and scissoring or too violent uppercuts, whether it's a rugby tackle or a profile tackle for us. And we went back to the basics. We teach tackling. We teach it ad nauseum around here. I mean, it's extremely important to us. Jason Garrett asked me it before the game. It's something that we take pride in terms of teaching that. And obviously that's a blow when you don't tackle the way that you need to tackle to be effective on Saturday. And that's a frustrating piece of the game. And I know our guys will get better. In tackling, the first thing we talk about it all the time, Coach Brown, myself, the defensive staff, you have to have want to. And we've got guys that want to tackle. There's no doubt about that. We don't have any guys that fancy themselves cover corners or anything like that. We got guys that want to tackle. We've got to be more diligent and more spot on with our technique, with how we get guys on the ground.
So obviously a staple of the defense here in recent years has been aggressive mentality, trying to do some things to really confuse quarterbacks and, keep the offense off balance. It seemed like you guys were a bit back on your heels. How much of that is Sam Hartman, a 6-year quarterback who's seen it all, and it's a little hard to throw things at him that are going to rattle him?
That's exactly our mentality. That's what we want to be. That's who we aspire to be. Sam Hartman's a great player. Was really impressed with him. Knew he was a great player going into the game. Left thinking the exact same thing. He confirmed all those things. We knew going into the game there was really 3 areas of emphasis, and that's sort of the thing that upsets you as a coach. Is we knew we had to tackle well. We knew we had to be great in terms of block destruction, and then we knew in the pass game we had to be great with our finish skills. He was going to try to fit the ball in tight windows. Wasn't afraid to give his guys opportunities to make plays, and they made more than we did. We had 2 PBUs and 25 pass attempts. It's not enough. Obviously, we didn't get to the quarterback nearly as much as we'd like to. We had a blindside hit on the quarterback. What absolutely has to be a tomahawk fumble situation for us. Has to be 1,000 times out of 1,000. And we didn't get it done there, and that could have been a big turning point in the game during the 3rd series. So I think the world of this Notre Dame football team. I really do. Being here 5 years, playing them 5 seasons now, I think that's the best Notre Dame team that we've played since we've been here. Came away really impressed with Sam Hartman, their offensive line. They were well coached and executed at extremely high level.
Well, you mentioned challenging passes. I think there were several occasions where a Navy defender was right there, and Sam did put a perfect pass in place for drop right in, but there was, and I think of Andrew Duhart a couple times, who were right there and just needed to make a play on the ball, or it wasn't a jump ball situation necessarily, but he was in position.
Yes, we had several of those. It was an emphasis during the week. We actually finished practice with some form of tackling, block destruction, or finish skills all week long. So we knew there was some things that were going to rear their head on Saturday, and to be honest with you, they made a few more plays than we made, and obviously it's frustrating for us as coaches and players, and we look at those things and how can we do it better? How can we be better? How can we emphasize it more? Is there a different way to get things done? So we do get those guys on the ground tackling wise. So we do make sure that we understand our fits in the run game, and then when the opportunity presents itself in the pass game, we've got the right leverage. We've played the right technique. We're able to finish on the football. And I know our coaching staff, I know the guys in the locker room are working extremely hard to make sure that we clean up those rough edges.
I'll pass it back to Scott.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, how's the transition working for Mbidi, moving from corner to bandit?
Yeah, I think he brings a great coverability at that position for us. I think he's doing an excellent job. He's extremely thorough with the way that he goes about his work. He provides some things, coverability that there, being a former corner, that make it a little bit easier for us to do some things coverage wise that we'd like to be able to do. I think Coach Lewis has done an excellent job with him. Coach Green as well. He still goes and gets cornerback work and can play that position for us as well. And then I think Avon Gibbons went in at bandit and did some nice things there. I know, everybody's going to talk about the missed tackle that he had that resulted in the touchdown, but he did some great things in the run game there as well, coming in that position. So I think we've got really two guys that can play that position at a high level.
And how important is that, especially with the type of quarterbacks that you face in the American Athletic Conference, to have that depth in the backfield?
Yeah, it's extremely critical. I mean, we're gonna face very, very fast and talented skill guys every week in the American Athletic Conference, and we know that. We have to be able to hold up on the back end, and as frustrated as fans were, supporters were. There's nobody more frustrated with giving up the yardage that we gave up and giving up the points that we gave up than the guys in the locker room and the guys in that coaching staff there. But I think it's critical for our guys to understand we got to take a big jump from week 1 to week 2. I think we've got the right guys, and like Coach Newberry mentioned earlier, all the positions are open. Guys are battling for it, and you see guys going and attacking the practice field in the right manner. So I'm excited about where we're headed. I'm encouraged about where we're headed. And I really think Coach Lewis and Coach Green have done a great job with those guys on the back end and being able to move pieces around so we can get the best guys on the field. Especially
early in the season, to have a bye week, can kind of let it all hang out. In some of the practices yesterday, very spirited, that had to feel good to see them rallying, coming back and looking that physical and kind of gritty and mean yesterday in practice. There's no other way to do it. It's either you're all in or you're not. And these guys are definitely all in. I told them before the game that I had confidence in them because of their preparation, because of their training. And that hasn't changed one iota. I know we've got a good football team in that locker room. They, like I said before, we're in the corner. We're retraining right now, and we're coming out swinging. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
So you had two first-year starters at outside linebacker. I think Xavier McDonald probably got most of the time at striker. It looked like Jordan Sanders got most of the time at Raider. How did those two guys play? I mean, did it look like their first game, getting their feet wet? Obviously, Xavier's not John Marshall, and Jordan's not Nicholas Strahl.
Sure. I think those guys did a heck of a job in their first game. I grabbed Jordan afterwards and talked with him for a little bit in the hotel after the game. Was impressed with his physicality. Obviously, there's some things to clean up there. We had some alignment issues that led to some of those misfits that we've got to make sure that we get cleaned up. But I was impressed with his athleticism. Obviously, he's a big, strong dude that can change direction. He played a physical football game, and that's what we expect from him moving forward. I just see him just continuing to get better and better. And Xavier McDonald, I told you guys a few weeks ago, it's a bright spot of camp. I feel like he just gets better and better every time he goes out there. And the first time you're out there in that competition, in that environment, it can eat people up. And in neither one of those guys, the moment was too big for them. They were ready for the moment, and that's a
kudos to Coach Brown getting those guys to believe in what we were doing and how we were doing it. So I'm excited about seeing those two guys and their growth in those positions as the season moves along. And really, from week 1 to week 2, I expect a big jump from those guys, even though they played good football for us.
One guy who seemed to show up a bit on defense was Kyle Jacob, the backup inside linebacker. Did you think he had one of his better games?
He is a physical presence out there. He is a guy that really tackled at a high level. I think he had 17 snaps and had 7 tackles in those 17 snaps and 0 missed tackles. Was really impressed with him in terms of that. I know he's frustrated. He misfit one that led to the 24-yard touchdown run, and I know he was awfully upset about that. And we'll get that fixed. But I'm excited about him. I really think we got 4 guys at inside linebacker that are basically starters for us, and we can put in the game in any situation and really trust and have confidence in them. And Kyle works as hard as anybody on the football team. He's as tough as anybody on the football team. And I think he's going to be a guy that you guys and Navy football fans are going to really enjoy watching play this season.
So Ray Lane had that one pass break up in the end zone. It was initially called pass interference. They picked up the flag, which was good because it was a great play. Punched the ball out of a tailback's hands. Unfortunately, the ball rolled out of bounds, but it could have been a takeaway. I didn't see all the film, so I don't know if he was, had some times when he wasn't where he's supposed to be. But overall, I feel like Ray was running around making plays.
Yeah, I think Ray is an excellent football player. The forced fumble that he had was textbook, is exactly how we teach it. We actually showed that particular clip to the entire defense Monday, and just in terms of how we go to knock the football out in the manner in which we do it. He'll tell you there's a few plays out there that he'd really like to have back, but there's a few plays where like I've told you before, he's an eraser back there, and he covered up for other guys' mistakes because of his instincts, his speed, his awareness, and his athleticism. So I think he's really growing. I think he's taking a leadership role in the back end. And we talked Monday night after it, and he said the same thing, Coach. I feel the same way you did. I'm encouraged and I'm pissed off, and can't wait to get back to work. So I don't think anybody around here's taking any pats on the back or anything like that. Guys are working extremely hard to get better, and Ray's definitely one of those guys. I love the way that he goes about his work.
So obviously, in the immediate aftermath of a game like that, where he give up a lot of points and yards, and just really, didn't have the type of game you want defensively. There's, you got to try to build these guys back up. They probably are down, and feel like, wow, man, what the hell just happened? How do you kind of do that, Coach?
We're just honest with them, Wags. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. This is a big family. We're going to look at everything with a fine-tooth comb. Number one, I'm gonna pull the thumb. When you're the leader of a group, you got to look at yourself first and see what you need to fix to help guys get in, the best situation possible on the field, and make sure we get done what we need to get done. And I know our coaching staff does the same thing with their position group. They know those guys backward and forward. And I know we got those type of players here where they're going to look at everything extremely critical. How can I get better? Where did I make a mistake? Why did I make that mistake? Did I not understand something? Was it my technique? And we're going to have those conversations. We're going to be honest, and we're going to watch things on film, and we're going to talk about it, be brutally honest with each other to make sure that we eliminate repetitive mistakes and we grow from this situation. Obviously, nobody envisioned going into that game and having the result that we had. And I'll be the first to tell you, we went into that game expecting to win that game and expecting to play our A game and really practiced in that manner. So that's why guys were for lack of a better term, pissed. The encouraging piece of it is the way that we approach the game and some glimpses of some things throughout the course of the game. So we show those things as well, and then we bury that deal and move on from it, just like Coach Newberry talked about the other day.
That was probably a tough opener for you as well as a play caller, because it just, when they're running the ball and dictating, it's difficult to do what you do and try to be counterattacking. But how did you feel in your first outing up there in the booth?
Yeah, obviously would have liked different results, that's for sure. But that it doesn't always work like that. And as a competitor, you want to play the best. And that's what some people come and they say, hey, that's a tough one on the schedule. They're going to be there every year. We have to be ready to play Notre Dame every year. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is something that we embrace in recruiting. We embrace around here. We're excited about the opportunity to get to play against quote unquote the big boys. And that is an excellent football team. I expect they'll be in the race as the season moves along. We'll see. I felt comfortable. I thought our staff did a great job in terms of just communication. I thought Coach Newberry was excellent in terms of the communication, making sure that we were all on the same page in how we wanted to get to things defensively. But we looked, that was one of the first things we did is we came back in and said, hey, how can we make it better? What do we need to do to make it better for us as a staff and for our players so we can have everything as organized as it needs to be on game day. So we're constantly looking at ways for us to improve, like I talked about earlier.